A humble girl offers her umbrella to a stranger caught in the rain, oblivious to the fact that he is a CEO destined to alter her life in unimaginable ways. The rain fell in a steady cascade, tapping rhythmically on the pavement and creating tiny streams that meandered through the gutters. The sky hung in a consistent grey, burdened by the presence of relentless clouds. At a humble bus stop on the fringes of the city, a young woman waited in solitude, seeking refuge under a tattered umbrella. Lena was her name, a 24-year-old whose simple clothing and tired gaze hinted at a life filled with challenges. Even with the cold creeping in through her light coat, she held on to a quiet strength, her eyes locked on the hazy horizon where the bus would soon emerge. Next to her, nestled on the bench, was a man who seemed to be in his late 20s. His garments, despite their fine craftsmanship, were tousled and wet, adhering to him as if he had been meandering through the downpour for an eternity. Disheveled dark hair tumbled over his brow, partially hiding a visage etched with fatigue and hopelessness. His eyes, vacant and unfocused, gazed downwards, while his shoulders sagged beneath an unseen weight. Jaden was once a powerful CEO of a top technology firm. Now a man lost after betrayal had taken away his company and sense of direction. Lena caught sight of him from the periphery, registering the quiver in his hands and the irregular, shallow rhythm of his breathing. The rain poured relentlessly, and even with the bus stop's overhang providing some cover, droplets splashed onto the bench, drenching the already soaked man even more. Empathy welled up inside her. She was all too familiar with the sharp pain of life's harsh realities, the unyielding battle to survive, the chilling apathy of a world that continued its course, oblivious to personal anguish. Gathering her resolve, Lena stepped forward, opening her umbrella to shield them both. The act was straightforward, but it closed the gap of quietude that lay between them. Jaden recoiled just a bit at the unexpected closeness, his gaze darting up to connect with hers. Soft, compassionate look greeted them, one that appeared to penetrate the depths of his sorrow. "You shouldn't have to sit in the rain," Lena said softly, her voice imbued with a warmth that reflected her genuine concern. "Even those we don't know should have the chance to remain dry." For a brief instant, Jaden found himself speechless. The gay warmth in her voice, the generosity of her deeds, stood in sharp relief to the treachery and avarice he had faced not long ago. His throat constricted, and he gulped down, battling the wave of feelings that threatened to engulf him. "Thank you," he managed to murmur, his voice scarcely breaking through the soft rhythm of the rain. Lena gave a faint smile, her hold firm on the umbrella handle as she kept them both protected. They lingered in a comfortable quiet, the rain providing a soothing backdrop to the silent connection that flowed between them. Even with the cold surrounding him, a gentle warmth started to blossom in Jaden's heart, a spark of hope kindled by a small gesture of kindness. As the minutes passed, the bus was still nowhere to be seen, held up by the harsh weather conditions. Lena moved a bit, repositioning the umbrella to keep Jaden sheltered. Seeing him tremble, she rummaged through her bag and retrieved a somewhat wrinkled but still tidy scarf. With a soft gesture, she placed it delicately across his shoulders. "It's not much, but it should help keep you warm." Jaden looked at her, astonished by her continued generosity. Throughout his career, he had met numerous individuals, partners, employees, rivals, but only a handful had shown such genuine kindness without any anticipation of reward. The heaviness of his recent losses weighed on him, but in this brief instant, the load seemed a touch less oppressive. "Why are you doing this?" he inquired, his tone laced with both curiosity and a hint of vulnerability. Lena locked eyes with him, her gaze filled with genuine intent. "As everyone faces their own tempests," she responded. "At times a simple refuge can guide someone on their journey." Her words struck a profound chord within Jaden, reverberating through the corridors of his aching heart. The metaphor resonated deeply with him. He found himself ensnared in a storm, his life turned upside down and aimless. Yet here stood this young woman, extending her sanctuary without any knowledge of his past. The irony was striking. He who once wielded the ability to transform lives with a single choice, now discovered himself at the mercy of generosity from someone who seemed to possess so little. The rain started to lighten, transforming from a torrential cascade into a soft, soothing mist. The distant hum of the approaching bus grew louder, signaling the end of their brief encounter. Lena stood, tucking her umbrella away and looking down at Jaden with a gentle gaze. "This is my ride," she said, a trace of hesitation in her voice. "Look after your well-being." As she pivoted to step onto the bus, Jaden was engulfed by a wave of anxiety. He felt compelled to recognize her kindness, to ensure she didn't vanish from his life as suddenly as she had appeared. He stood up and shouted, "Hold on!" Lena halted, casting a glance over her shoulder at him, her eyes filled with curiosity. "I didn't catch your name," he said, stepping closer. Her smile radiated, a spark of brightness piercing the overcast sky. "Lena here, Lena," he said again, etching it into his memory. The following morning, Jaden awoke with a sense of determination he hadn't experienced in weeks. There was an essence to that girl, Lena, that resonated in his thoughts like an unforgettable tune. He followed the path back from the bus stop, yearning to encounter her once more. For 2 days, he roamed the neighborhood, his gaze sweeping over each storefront and every cafe. At last he came to a halt at the edge of a serene street, gazing at a quaint, time-worn bookstore. From his vantage point by the window, he caught sight of her, Lena. As she meticulously placed each book on the shelf, her hands moved with a delicate grace, and a serene expression graced her face. Something within Jaden awakened, a blend of relief, curiosity, and something deeper. He entered the room. The aroma of aged paper and polished wood permeated the atmosphere. Lena glanced upward, a smile spreading across her face, though she didn't immediately recognize him. Her smile, authentic and inviting, appeared to pierce through the final veil of mist in his heart. "Welcome," she said, gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, searching for something specific. "I'm just browsing," he said gently. He grabbed a book at random, yet his gaze remained fixed on her. In the days that followed, Jaden found himself drawn back to the bookstore repeatedly. Every time he purchased a little book, he shared a few words with Lena. He discovered that she held a part-time job here and resided with her grandmother in a small apartment above a laundromat. He observed how she consistently extended her hand to assist older patrons in locating the perfect book, how she acknowledged the mailman with familiarity, and how she set aside her own lunch to nourish a hungry child who happened to wander in one day. Lena exuded kindness, yet she never elicited pity. Her pride radiated, embodying dignity rather than arrogance. She remained silent about her struggles, even as her shoes showed signs of wear, and she walked with a slight limp after a long day. On a tranquil afternoon, the shop was enveloped in silence. Lena flipped through the pages of a poetry book, while Jaden lingered by the counter, feigning interest in the text before him. "I've noticed you around quite a bit recently," she remarked with a subtle smile. "Do you have a hidden passion for books, or is there another reason behind it?" Jaden locked eyes with her, offering a subtle smile. "Perhaps a combination of the two." She playfully tilted her head. "It appears you're still feeling down," as he hasn't responded promptly. Lena pressed on, her tone gentle and soothing. "I'm not sure what has transpired in your life, but it feels as though a darkness has settled in your gaze, as if the light has lost its way to illuminate that part of you." He gazed at her, taken aback. No one had ever expressed anything like that to him. "And you?" he inquired softly. "What are you?" She shrugged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I suppose I'm simply a person who enjoys pursuing the light of day." Jaden chuckled, the noise rough yet genuine. "Perhaps you are the very essence of the sun, appearing unexpectedly when I needed light the most." Her cheeks flushed with a rosy hue. "I don't consider myself to be anything out of the ordinary." "You are," he said softly, and she turned her gaze, flustered yet smiling. From that moment on, everything changed. Jaden no longer drifted without direction. He arrived at the bookstore with intent. He volunteered to assist with carrying boxes, repaired a damaged shelf, and even brought in coffee one morning, asserting it was surplus from a meeting. Lena playfully teased him, yet she received it with gratitude. She remained unaware of his true identity, and Jaden found satisfaction in that mystery. In that moment, He was stripped of titles, free from the spotlight and untouched by scrutiny. He was merely a man, observed by someone who held no motive to criticize or praise. He observed her engaging with children, narrating fairy tales to elderly women, and even pursuing a lost cat in the alley behind the store. She never pursued recognition. Her heart was subtly vast. On a gloomy afternoon, with thunder echoing far away, they lingered by the window, observing the raindrops race down the pane. "This weather takes me back to the day we first met," Jaden remarked unexpectedly. Lena gazed at him, a look of confusion crossing her face. "Have we crossed paths previously?" Jaden paused for a moment, then a smile spread across his face. "Not quite. It seems as though our connection runs deeper than the time we've actually spent together." Lena gazed at him, her eyes gentle and warm. Perhaps our souls recognized each other long before our paths crossed. Jaden remained silent, his gaze fixed on her. For the first time in weeks, he sensed that perhaps the fragments of his life could be pieced together once more. Perhaps not in a single moment, but gradually, with care. Perhaps she would be there, to guide him in discovering their rightful place. In the weeks that followed, Jaden increasingly found himself drawn back to the bookstore. What began as a serene escape from the tumult of his existence evolved into something profoundly significant. A refuge. In that moment, he was not a fallen executive, but merely a person seeking to rediscover his true self. Lena welcomed him every time with her characteristic warmth. She never inquired about his arrival, never sought a reason for the darkness that lingered in his gaze. In some way, she had an uncanny ability to express exactly what was needed, without uttering a single question. One evening, as the golden sunset streamed through the dusty windows, they sat together, sifting through a box of old donated books. Lena lifted a well-loved hardcover and beamed. "One day I dream of creating a cozy spot for children to dive into books," she expressed. "An open library, devoid of constraints, where tales abound and safety prevails." Jaden gazed at her. "That resonates with beauty." She gave a slight nod. "Literature rescued me during my childhood. We had little in the way of modern entertainment, no internet, no TV, but my grandma's bookshelf overflowed with enchanting fairy tales. I often found myself wandering through those realms." Jaden offered a gentle smile. "Now you aim to craft a realm where others can immerse themselves completely." Her voice took on a contemplative quality. "Poverty doesn't extinguish the flame of aspiration. Your aspirations simply need to strive more diligently." Something in her words resonated within him, awakening a part he hadn't explored in ages. He inhaled deeply. "Once I possessed it all. Company, a future, companions I believed in, and then in an instant it was gone." Lena's eyes remained unchanged. She simply bided her time. "What led to this occurrence?" Jaden's voice softened. "My closest companion and my vice president, they utilized counterfeit documents and deceived the board. One morning I opened my eyes and found everything had vanished, in an instant." She rested the book in her lap, her voice soft and barely audible. "Sincerely apologize." Jaden shook his head in disbelief. "I found myself pondering what I might have overlooked, how I allowed it to unfold. Then I began to ponder, perhaps I was worthy of it." "No one deserves betrayal," Lena said softly. "Experiencing the loss of your business doesn't equate to losing your identity." He let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. "Then why do I feel like I'm drifting through the shadows?" Instinctively, she extended her hand and made contact with his, though it was a minor act. In that instant, it seemed to be the most genuine connection he had experienced in months. Her fingers radiated warmth, providing a sense of stability. She gazed at him, not with sympathy but with a profound understanding. "If they took everything," she whispered, "then let this be the one thing they can't touch. Your kindness, your decency. The aspect of yourself that they were never worthy of discovering." Jaden was unable to utter a word. He simply gazed at her, his breath held tight. He had never heard words like that before. He held onto her hand tightly. She didn't either. As he strolled home beneath the shimmering stars, that night, A revelation dawned upon him. Hope remained by his side. It had merely been concealed, biding its time for someone like her to awaken it once more. In the days that followed, there was a subtle change in Jaden's attitude. Lena observed it in the lightness of his shoulders, in the way his gaze rested on things with a newfound intention. He had started to rise earlier, not to flee from his thoughts, but to face them head-on. In the solitude of his modest apartment, he found himself enveloped by a sea of files, aged emails and contracts, fragments of a puzzle he had once sought to leave behind, yet now felt compelled to piece together. He contacted a reliable attorney, someone who had previously been part of his team many years back. Their meeting began with a sense of hesitation, yet as Jaden recounted the events, the lawyer's attention sharpened. "There's still time," he remarked. "They left some traces behind. If we take action promptly, we can delve into the documentation. With perseverance, what seems daunting can become achievable," Jaden acknowledged with a nod. After weeks of feeling trapped, a sense of empowerment washed over him for the first time. During the day, he engaged with legal advisors and investigators. As dusk settled, he made his way back to the bookstore, seeking a moment to rejuvenate. Lena's presence had transformed into his silent source of fortitude. She never inquired about his whereabouts, yet she consistently greeted him with unwavering warmth. One evening, she offered him a cup of tea, her smile warm and inviting. "You've changed," she remarked, not in a negative sense. "It feels as if a part of me is stirring to life." Jaden gazed at her, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Perhaps it is. I believed I had lost it all. Yet you brought back the essence of what it truly means to battle once more." Lena blinked momentarily, stunned. "Who, me?" He gave a slight nod. "You did not provide me with any funds. A solution was not provided to me. You provided me with something truly transformative, a motivation to rise again." She gazed at him, her cheeks turning a rosy hue. "I just had a conversation with you, you absorbed," he amended. "You placed your faith in someone who lacked faith in himself." That evening, after departing from the store, Jaden strolled beneath the familiar sky that had once drenched him completely. Yet now the atmosphere seemed altered. The rain felt light and freeing. It was a vow. He pulled his coat closer and continued on his way. His thoughts had shifted from a whirlwind of hopelessness to the careful construction of a strategy. He started collecting evidence, contacting former colleagues who had observed the questionable changes within his company. There was a sense of reluctance among some. To his astonishment, they all readily offered their assistance. Bit by bit, the reality began to unfold. Then arrived the evening when the rain poured down with determination. The rain fell heavily, reminiscent of that initial encounter, with torrents of water cutting through the atmosphere. Jaden lingered by the bookstore, umbrella poised, observing the raindrops cascade down the glass. He bided his time until Lena arrived to secure the place. She was taken aback to find him there, positioned beneath the awning, soaked yet grinning. "Is that you, Jaden?" she inquired, pushing damp strands away from her visage. "You might end up catching a cold out here." He moved ahead and unfurled the umbrella, sheltering them both beneath its canopy. The gentle yellow light from the storefront illuminated their faces with a warm radiance. "Once you offered me your umbrella," he said softly. "That day transformed my entire life." Lena gazed at him, her face a mask of mystery. She recalled softly, "I never thought our paths would cross again after that." Jaden inhaled deeply. "I felt shattered, Lena. On that day, I felt like vanishing, yet your compassion brought me back to reality. You may not have known me, yet you noticed me. Now I wish to extend the same gesture towards you." He delved into his coat and extracted a bundle wrapped in plastic. Within lay a pristine umbrella, elegant and sturdy, featuring the initials LM. Delicately etched on the handle, "I no longer wish to remain in the rain. I aspire to be the one who shields you from the rain. Allow me to be the constant presence by your side, forever." Lena's lips parted in astonishment. Her eyes sparkled with feeling. "Jaden, you can take your time with your response," he added hastily, his heart pounding. "I wanted to express how much you truly mean to me." You offered me an opportunity to not only improve my professional life, but also to become a better version of myself. The rain eased, transforming into a delicate mist. Lena moved in, her fingers lightly grazing his as she accepted the umbrella from him. "I didn't do anything special," she murmured. "Indeed," he remarked, "you provided me with refuge when I was unaware of my need for it." They remained in that stillness for a moment more, the silence enveloping them, hearts pulsing in a shared, unvoiced cadence. And although no promises were exchanged, an unspoken connection blossomed between them that night, marking the start of something genuine, something deserving of their efforts. In the weeks that ensued, the quiet shroud enveloping Jaden's disappearance started to come apart. Whispers echoed through the corridors of commerce, tales of counterfeit papers, abrupt changes in authority, and a treachery from within that dismantled the empire of a once-admired CEO. Investigators probed further, investors began to inquire, and the name Jaden West resurfaced in the news, not as a controversy, but as an enigma. Jaden advanced with a subtle yet firm determination. With Lena's quiet strength resonating in his thoughts, he made his way back to the city, convened with attorneys, and set in motion the legal steps to reclaim his rights. His voice carried a steady determination in the courtroom. "I have no intention of seeking vengeance. I seek fairness and authenticity." Shortly thereafter, the former vice president of the company found himself in handcuffs. Allegations of fraud, forgery, and corporate theft were leveled against him, supported by a mountain of evidence that Jaden's team had carefully assembled. Witnesses stepped forward, some hesitantly, others with a sense of relief, confirming the deceptions that had driven Jaden out of his own company. As the VP sat in anticipation of the trial, one name lingered in the air, missing from the courtroom: Lucas Reed, Jaden's oldest friend, the man he had once regarded as a brother, the one who had ultimately betrayed him in the most profound way. Lucas had disappeared. 1. He had escaped the nation prior to the allegations being lodged, concealing himself behind overseas accounts and counterfeit papers. Yet Jaden understood that his absence would not be permanent. Lucas exuded an air of arrogance, becoming increasingly perilous when faced with a challenge. He was indeed correct. Understood. It occurred on a night strikingly similar to the one that marked the beginning of it all. Rain cascaded in frigid, dense torrents. Lena had just locked up the bookstore, a gentle tune escaping her lips as she wrapped her coat around her and ventured into the shadowy street. She was oblivious to the black car that came to a halt beside her, caught off guard and unable to let out a scream, before strong hands seized her from behind and yanked her into the back seat. After several hours, Jaden finally got the call. It was a number unfamiliar to him, yet the voice was etched in his memory forever. "Hello, Jay," Lucas remarked, effortlessly charming. "It appears you are making good progress. Bravo on capturing the spotlight once more. It nearly fills me with pride." Jaden stood still. Where could she be? For the moment she is secure. Ultimately, it's up to you. You will withdraw the lawsuit, along with all documents and accusations. You'll claim it was merely a misinterpretation. And in exchange, you receive her once more. Jaden's hold on the phone became more intense. "Keep your hands off her." Lucas let out a chilling laugh. "She exhibits a level of courage that took me by surprise. She expressed that she'd prefer to face death than witness you surrender." What a sacrifice. Jaden felt a chilling wave wash over him. "If you hurt her, I promise you, you'll regret it," Lucas snapped. "This will not end well if you choose to disregard my guidelines." The conversation concluded. Jaden remained frozen in place, caught in a moment of stillness. With a fierce determination igniting his spirit, he advanced. He reached out to the authorities, shared the call recording, and activated his whole security team. However, this was more than merely a rescue operation. This held deep significance. In the shadows of a dim warehouse, Lena found herself bound, a bruise marring her arm from the recent struggle. Her heart raced, yet her gaze remained unwavering. As Lucas stepped inside, her gaze locked onto him with intensity. "You won't win," she stated. He let out a derisive laugh. "You couldn't be more mistaken. Jaden follows a familiar pattern. He will go to great lengths to ensure your safety. That's the one card I require. Lena's voice trembled with rage. You lack courage. You resorted to taking his existence, as you were incapable of creating one for yourself. Lucas seized her chin, a sneer curling on his lips. You have no insight into who I am. I know this, she said, breathless. You believe that authority is derived from intimidation, yet he possesses a quality you may never attain, integrity, and a cause to champion. Lucas took a step back, visibly unsettled. The authorities traced the signal from the phone. Jayden accompanied them as they discovered the warehouse on the city's edge. The assault unfolded quickly, with a cacophony of sound and a dazzling display of lights. Inside, Lucas seized Lena, positioning her before him as a barrier, the knife quivering in his grip. "Stay back," he shouted, as officers surged into the room. "I promise I will." But Jayden moved closer. "Lucas," he said, his voice unwavering. "This isn't the path you wish to take. She destroyed it all," Lucas spat. "You were meant to remain down. You had reached your limit." Jayden's voice lowered. "No, I was shattered, yet she brought me back to my true self, and now you've committed your final error." Lena's gaze locked with Jayden's from across the room. He offered the faintest of nods. "Believe in me." With a swift and decisive movement, Jayden sprang forward as Lucas faltered. The blade grazed his shoulder, yet he pressed on undeterred. He yanked Lena back, just as the officers brought Lucas down to the pavement. The end had come. As the distant wail of sirens echoed, Jayden embraced Lena tightly. She held onto him tightly, trembling, yet secure. "You're bleeding," she murmured. "I'm fine," he said, gently pushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You are secure. That's the only thing that counts." "I told him I'd rather die than let him take you down," she said, her tears streaming down her face. He cradled her face softly. "I'd put it all on the line to keep you safe." On that fateful night, Lucas found himself in handcuffs facing serious charges of kidnapping, extortion, and conspiracy. Jayden's case progressed with renewed vigor. And Lena, she transformed into something far beyond the girl who had once provided him refuge from the downpour. She was the reason for his survival. Jayden's reality shattered the instant he discovered Lena was gone. She had ignored her phone all day. The bookstore stood closed, her coat lingering on the rack. Fear engulfed him. There was an unsettling feeling in the air. He sensed it with each breath, each pulse of his heart. He reached out to her neighbors, contacted the hospital, and even involved the police, yet no one had any information about her whereabouts. He did not hesitate. Rallying every connection he possessed, he enlisted private security, technology, specialists, and even former officers he had once relied on during his tenure as CEO. This transcended his identity and his business. This was about Lena, the one individual who had glimpsed the remnants of his true self and still opted to remain by his side. A tech investigator followed the final known signal from Lena's phone to an industrial zone on the outskirts of the city. A decrepit warehouse steeped in neglect. Jayden felt his heart race as the team approached the site. He arrived within moments, bursting from the vehicle before anyone had a chance to intervene. Within the confines of the room, Lena found herself, restrained to a chair, her wrists marked with raw, bruised evidence of her struggle. Her face was ashen, her lips quivering not from trepidation, but from the icy determination of one who would not yield. Lucas paced a few feet away, the silver knife in his hand catching the light with a sharp gleam. "Do you really believe he will come to your rescue?" he whispered under his breath. "Do you really believe he wouldn't exchange anything for you?" In an instant, the warehouse doors flew open with a forceful crash. Jayden entered, drenched from the downpour, a fierce intensity in his gaze. "Release her, Lucas," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with rage. With a swift motion, Lucas turned, brandishing the blade as he seized Lena from behind. "One more step, Jayden, and I promise you," Jayden remained unfazed. "If you cause her pain, there will be no way to mend what's broken. Do you really believe?" "That matters to me," Lucas exclaimed. "You've reclaimed it all. I found myself with nothing remaining to sacrifice. You ought to have remained on the ground." Jayden gradually lifted his hands, moving in closer. "Your decision is made, Lucas, But she doesn't belong in this situation. Allow her to leave. This concludes tonight. Lucas's hold on Lena grew firmer, the blade quivering at her throat. You won't take any action. Her safety is not something you can gamble with. Jaden's voice fell to a hushed tone. She holds a significance beyond mere acquaintance. She embodies it all. And then pandemonium ensued. Jaden propelled himself ahead. Just as Lucas erupted with fury, the blade arced unpredictably, grazing Jaden's shoulder as he protected Lena. Agony surged through him in an instant, yet he pressed on undeterred. He swiftly moved Lena out of danger, encircling her with his arm as she fell to the ground. The security team burst in, swiftly subduing Lucas to the ground, wresting the knife from his grip as his screams echoed in the room. Lena rushed over to Jaden, who was leaning against a crate, blood seeping through his shirt. Is that you, Jaden? She wept, kneeling beside him, her hands pressed against his injury, trembling. What would compel you to take that action? Well, he gazed at her, his complexion wan yet aware, his words scarcely rising above a whisper. You are the sole treasure I have that deserves my defense. She wept openly, holding him tightly. Text. You fool, she murmured. You really didn't need to. I did, he murmured, for in your absence I feel as though I merely exist, not truly living. Moments later the paramedics arrived, ensuring Jaden's safety while taking Lena for observation. Lucas found himself in handcuffs, his voice echoing, with hollow threats as he was pulled away. The warehouse, frigid and resonant, contained the concluding page of a drawn-out, agonizing narrative. In the days that ensued, Jaden made a swift recovery. The injury, while severe, had spared any critical regions. The headlines surged with the sensational tale of a former CEO putting everything on the line to shield his girlfriend from a kidnapper. Images of Jaden and Lena at the hospital, clasping hands, spread rapidly. Yet beyond the headlines, a much grander narrative emerged. Jaden's legal case, bolstered by the compelling evidence gathered and the strong testimonies obtained, was a clear victory. The arrest of Lucas unveiled the depth of the conspiracy, while the counterfeit documents submitted by the former VP clinched the case. The board of Jaden's previous company released a public apology. The court's decisions restored Jaden's rights and assets. All that was taken has now been restored. When reporters inquired about what held the greatest significance for him, Jaden's response was straightforward. I have reunited with Lena. That is my true triumph. The expansive ballroom of the Westmont Hotel brimmed with guests. Media teams from all the leading networks gathered around the perimeter, their lenses focused on the magnificent stage. Business ignites, shareholders, reporters, and intrigued onlookers awaited with bated breath. For weeks, the country had been captivated by Jaden West's tumultuous journey, from deposed CEO to a figure of resilience, ultimately revealing one of the most significant corporate scandals of the decade. Yet, there was an air of uncertainty surrounding this press conference, the most eagerly awaited event of the year. The stage lights softened their glow. The murmur of the crowd dwindled, leaving only the sharp focus of a solitary spotlight illuminating the podium. Jaden stepped outside, looking impeccably sharp in a fitted dark suit, with a crisp white shirt casually unbuttoned at the collar. His stride was firm and assured, yet there was a newfound softness in the manner he held himself, a subtle resilience that emerged not from corporate halls, but from the shattered spaces he had dared to mend. He halted at the podium, scanning the multitude of expressions before him. Good evening, he started, his tone steady and composed. I appreciate your presence. This evening transcends the mere act of taking back what was rightfully mine. It revolves around something much more profound: endurance, authenticity, and the individuals who enable both to thrive. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Jaden announced, as of today, I have officially resumed my role as CEO of Westech Innovations. The courts have reinstated my rights, and those who deceived this company and me have faced justice. A resounding wave of applause filled the air, echoing with enthusiasm. Jaden acknowledged with a nod, then raised a hand in response. However, my purpose for being here tonight extends beyond mere business discussions. I wish to discuss a matter that is much more intimate. A silence enveloped the audience. Jaden's gaze grew tender as he turned his attention to the side of the stage. Someone has arrived who has transformed my entire world. A person who had no ulterior motives, yet offered me their all without hesitation. He moved away from the podium, approached the side curtain, and extended his hand. The audience stood in silence, captivated, as a young woman emerged, her attire simple yet elegant, her face reflecting a blend of wonder and uncertainty. Lena. Her hand quivered ever so slightly as she reached for his. He guided her softly to the heart of the stage. "This," Jaden said, his voice warm like Lena's. "Perhaps a few of you are familiar with her. Some might not, yet she is the reason I find myself here today." Whispers of astonishment rippled through the audience. Lena appeared taken aback, her cheeks tinged with a rosy hue, yet Jaden held onto her hand tightly. At my lowest point, he remarked that Lena was unaware of my true self. She was indifferent. All she perceived was a figure ensnared by the downpour. And she handed me her umbrella. Lena cast her gaze downward, the onset of tears welling in her eyes. Jaden pivoted to confront her completely. "You reminded me that true worth is not derived from titles or wealth, but from kindness, from respect, from love." The crowd remained completely still. He delved into his pocket and retrieved a petite black velvet box. In that moment, under the gaze of cameras, the board, investors, and a captivated nation, Jaden knelt down on one knee. A shared breath of astonishment filled the space. Kamari's gleamed. Lena covered her mouth in disbelief, utterly astonished. Jaden gazed up at her, his eyes brimming with a devotion that hushed even the most thunderous heartbeats in the room. "You are the girl carrying the vintage umbrella, the girl who offered me refuge when I was unaware of my need for rescue. You showed me the way to rise once more. You brought back to me the essence of my identity." He lifted the lid of the box. Within the plush velvet interior lay a delicate ring of rose gold adorned with a solitary teardrop diamond. Clear, elegant, genuine. "Lena," he uttered, his voice quivering just a bit. "I long to be the one who shares the rain with you, standing side by side. I long to be the one by your side, offering my hand as the storms rage around us. Would you do me the honor of becoming my spouse?" Lena's tears flowed freely. Her hands quivered as she extended them toward his. "Indeed," she murmured. Then, with greater intensity, amidst both tears and laughter, "Absolutely." The room erupted in a wave of applause. Several remained standing. Some applauded, their eyes glistening with emotion. Camera flashes erupted like bursts of color in the night sky. Yet for Jaden and Lena, everything around them dissolved into quietude. He gently placed the ring on her finger. She enveloped him in a warm embrace. He stood, enveloping her in a warm embrace as she nestled her face against his chest. "I love you," she whispered. "I cherish you above all else." Jaden beamed, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Eternally." The applause echoed on, and the media was insatiable. A wealthy CEO making a romantic proposal to a bookstore employee on live TV. Yet neither of them seemed to notice. They were solely focused on one another. At last, after the tempest's relentless grip, the sun emerged on the horizon. Amidst the bustling crowd, right at the center of it all, the wedding unfolded in a manner that defied all the sensational predictions of the tabloids. There were neither magnificent cathedrals nor famous attendees, no extravagant gowns or ostentatious displays. Rather, it unfolded in the very center of the city, in a radiant garden enveloped by blossoming trees and cherished individuals. Lena donned a modest ivory dress adorned with intricate lace at the sleeves, her hair adorned with delicate wildflowers. Jaden stood beneath a wooden arch entwined with vines, his gaze filled with wonder and admiration as she approached him. They pledged their love, not as a wealthy man and a girl of humble means, but as two spirits who encountered one another amidst the rain and discovered a sanctuary within each other. With a subtle tremor in their hands, they adorned themselves with the rings, yet their voices remained steadfast and unwavering. "You saved me," Jaden whispered. Lena smiled through her tears, saying, "You saw me when I was invisible. You provided me with more than I could have ever imagined." Following the ceremony, they chose not to embark on a journey to an exotic island or escape to a secluded estate. They made their way back to the bookstore. Lena's aspiration to establish a free library for children had finally come to fruition. With Jaden's assistance, she turned a serene nook of the city into a secure, enchanting haven brimming with tales, vibrancy, and joy. Children from all walks of life gathered to read, to listen, to dream. Jaden, fueled by a newfound dedication to individuals over income, emerged as a significant supporter of educational initiatives throughout the nation. He continued to manage his company, but according to his own principles. No corporate theatrics, no empty triumphs. He dedicated more hours to the library than to meetings, more time sharing fairy tales with children than participating in interviews. 2 years later, their happiness grew exponentially. Lena welcomed a baby boy into the world, his chubby cheeks glowing with joy. They chose the name Lucas, not in honor of the man who deceived them, but to transform it into a symbol of renewal. "A fresh start," Jaden remarked, cradling his son. "Only light remains, casting aside all shadows." On a tender spring afternoon, a light rain started to descend. The trio gathered beneath a tree just beyond the bookstore. Jaden cradled tiny Lucas in his arms as Lena rested against his shoulder, her hand intertwined with his. Delicate beads of moisture twirled gracefully on the foliage overhead. Jaden reached beside him and retrieved an old familiar umbrella, the very one Lena had once shared with the stranger during a tempestuous day. He lifted it high, creating a barrier against the falling drizzle above them. Gazing at Lena, he offered a smile. "You handed me this umbrella, yet you never seemed to fear the rain." Lena chuckled gently, her head nestled against his chest. Lucas chattered joyfully in his embrace, stretching his little hands toward the heavens. And beneath that shelter of affection, the past and present fused into an eternal essence. The screen dimmed to a gentle grey hue. A note emerged in soft, sincere expressions. "A single umbrella has the power to shield an individual from the rain. A single compassionate spirit has the power to rescue a life." Their tale started amidst the rain and flourished under the sun. "We appreciate your presence as we navigate this emotional journey together. If this narrative resonated with you, brought a smile to your face, or evoked the gentle strength of compassion, we welcome you to join our expanding community. Join us at Soul-Stirring Stories for more heartfelt, transformative narratives that honor strength, kindness, and the beauty found in everyday experiences. Each week, we present tales that touch the soul and serve as a reminder that even the simplest gestures, such as offering an umbrella, can have a profound impact on someone's life. Press the subscribe button, activate notifications, and ensure you never overlook a tale that might resonate deeply with you. As the world craves illumination, we have the power to ignite that flame together. Until we meet again in the next tale.